Welcome to the Feral Garden. Today we're going to have a midsummer update and we're going to look at some changes for the new year. So let's get going. So today we're going to have a little walk around the Feral Garden. We're going to have a look at some of the different plants that have gone really well and some of the ones that we might make some changes to. The first one that's gone really well are the tomatoes. You can see the tomatoes all the way up to the top, and they'll start to grow all the way across. We have a great batch of tomatoes this year. And next year we hope to continue on with them. Underneath them we have our eggplants. Eggplants are going really well. A little bit of a problem with some of the leaves, starting to look a little speckled. One of the advantages of trimming the tomatoes is you get a lot more light through the bottom. I'm able to grow some things underneath. Put in a mixture of herbs, different plants. Over here we have a cage my son found, and in that cage we're growing a pumpkin. These are tiny little baby pumpkins, first time I've grown them, so they're a bit of an experiment as well. We have our peppers over here. These are jalapenos. I've already had some of those, very spicy. I'm also saving some of the jalapenos to make a spray. Hopefully we'll get rid of a few of the pests we've got in the garden. You can see the jalapenos are growing really well. Again, our tomatoes. We go up and have a look. This one is called Rapunzel. Unfortunately it's a hybrid, so I won't be able to save seed from it. So part of next year I'm looking at varieties where I can save the seed. This one is a yellow plum tomato. Not so much flavourful, but has a nice texture. Again, growing really well. Quite feral, and fits into the garden really quite well. But I think one of them is enough. Our first batch of cucumbers succumbed to powdery mildew. So I've got my second batch in, just starting to flower, and hopefully we'll get some nice baby cukes out of them. Going to spray for some powdery mildew. I sprayed before and I made it a little bit too strong, unfortunately, and I think I damaged some of the leaves. So I plan to spray again, but not quite so strong. And we're over in the aquaponics. Plenty of leafy greens. I'm going to stick with leafy greens in aquaponics from now on. We've got our bok choy at the front, we've got our pak choy at the back, some lettuce in the middle. This is an older lettuce bed, we haven't cleaned this one out yet. I'm saving that just in case we need it. And over here we have our new lettuce. The whole success is up to succession planting, being able to keep a whole group of them going and not have too much all at once. But the leafy greens particularly like the aquaponics. Down the bottom, our fish have been fed, so they'll probably be hiding. They won't be anywhere around to be seen. One of the improvements I intend to make is I'm going to put an extra couple of air stones in there, and that will help in case we have a power failure. Our two other IBC wicking beds. We've had some terrific zucchini this year, but again both of them grew too quickly and ended up having to be replaced. Unfortunately I wasn't very good at succession planting, so we've got our new zucchinis in, some squash behind. And over here we have some cucumber and a zucchini down the front. Same thing, you can see that I've got a bit of powdery mildew on the leaves. When I spray this time, I'm going to use half the strength I did last time. I'm going to make up a bicarb spray. I'm going to use half a teaspoon per litre instead of a full teaspoon, so I'm sure that affected some of the leaves before. Over to the experimental garden. Over here we have our root pouches. You can see the plants are doing really well in those. Again, I've got to look after that powdery mildew, and I'll do that straight after I finish the video. We have a watermelon growing here, a little tiny watermelon starting off. This cucumber hasn't done quite so well. Ones in the wicking bed are doing a little bit better. That's the whole point of these experiments, to see what works and what doesn't. Down here we have a blueberry, that's in a wicking bucket. We have some other wicking or air pouches down the bottom. Growth has been quite good. Over here, as I said, I like these little hat peppers. They're particularly nice. This one over here is meant to be very, very hot, so I'm going to have to be careful I don't mix them up. Perpetual spinach down the bottom. I'm going to have to pick some of that very soon. Our hydroponics, our hydroponic tomatoes, are growing really well. You can see all the fruit that's on them. These again are suckers from the tomatoes I showed you before, but the buckets themselves need a lot of topping up. So in future I will be trying a different system if I'm going to do hydroponic tomatoes. I'm going to need to have some system where the nutrient is pumped into them, I think. But the plants themselves are doing well, and I really don't notice much difference in the taste of them from the wicking bed to the hydroponics. Here we have an interesting one. This one actually is one of the tomatoes, again a Rapunzel, one of the suckers, but it's in a wicking barrel. It's right next to another Rapunzel, and basically they've grown just about the same. So I don't know if the hydroponics beats a wicking bed or not, but you certainly don't need to update the nutrient quite as much. Over here we have our herb bed. Plenty of herbs. Poor old sage is looking a little worse for wear, but the rest are all growing quite nicely. And then we have our Kratky hydroponics. We have our peppers. See them starting to change colour. Over here we have something that's gotten into our eggplants. The eggplants themselves are fine. There we have an eggplant. I like the long skinny ones rather than the big heavy ones. But down here we have our strawberries. And over here we have our bok choy. That's gone really well in the Kratky method. In future, these smaller crates, I'm not going to put big plants in them like eggplants. I might try the eggplants in the buckets instead of the tomatoes. And same with the peppers, and probably not have so many all together. I think that's part of the problem. The pests can get in there and are hard to look after. But that's the idea of the experiments. You have a little look around and try different things and see what works. A little update of what's happening in the feral garden. In the coming year I'll take you through some of the changes I'll be doing. We'll look at how the wicking beds go from season to season, from summer to winter. We're going to look at how I do different things in the aquaponics. I'm going to put some air stones in there, as I said. And we'll look at some of those experiments, and we'll try to fine-tune the hydroponics and the wicking beds out there as well. So stay tuned. Plenty happening on the feral garden. I hope you have a really happy new year. See you again.